What up? What up? What up? Bobo here. Thanks for joining me for another BrassReel live stream talking about She-Hulk. We're doing episode 7 today. Not that there's a ton of greatness to talk about. There's some good, but and joining me as always on this stream so far, got my boy Anshul. What's up?
What up? What up? What's going on, YouTube? What's going on, BrassReel Bros?
Yeah, man. Just, I'll tell you what, dude. Just before we get started, Andrew and I saw Smile, and I'm working on my review for that right now. I'll have it out today. I put a little short out the other day, or yesterday, but man, we saw Smile on Tuesday, a pre-screening, and dude, might be the best horror movie I've seen this year. That and Pearl.
Really? All right, I'm gonna have to check it out.
This is scarier though.
We're gonna have to check it out, post another review. So after you get done watching Bobo's review, you can come over to Who's the Master and check out our review when we post it.
Nice. Which
double up on those reviews.
Hell yeah. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. But talking about She-Hulk, we're getting into episode 7. And this one was a strange one.
Yeah. Stop me if you heard this one before.
Yeah, right. I liked this one better than the last episode.
Let me ask you a question. How many seconds were you in the show before you called the twist at the ending?
As soon as she didn't get the text back from him.
100%.
As soon as she's waking up, texting him and everything, and the text not coming back, I was like, all right, he's a planted seed. And one of the reasons I thought that is because there was something almost exactly like that on Miss Marvel.
Really?
Not with a guy and a girl, but a situation with a character that you're loving, and then in a snap of a finger, it's like, all right.
Yeah, this one's a little bit late. That's such lazy writing.
I gotta say, I'm starting to get like, what was the point of doing 9 episodes for one thing?
Yeah.
And then all this stuff is like, okay, hear me out on this one. The Marvel intro, the dun, 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 all the shit coming in, and it's dun 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 dun. They're playing that in front of a show that has none of that shit in it. All the shit you're seeing in that intro, then it's in front of a show that has none of that in it.
So I read some reviews on the last episode we reviewed here, because I want to get the pulse of what other people think about. Now, listen, you can't trust reviews these days. You can't trust critics these days because they have their own agendas, and it's obvious when they're reviewing things. Whatever it is, right? People have their own agendas.
Sure.
And it's bleeding through your movie reviews, and it's a painful thing. I did realize, though, while reading some of these reviews, that this show is designed for a very niche audience. Women in their 30s who are single and are into superhero shows, I guess. I don't know how big that audience is. I can't imagine it's that big, but I try to go in with that mentality of when I'm watching the show saying, hey, it's geared towards these women who are single, who read comic books, whatever. And so, we go into that opening date montage, and that's kind of the lens I'm trying to look at through, and I wanted to see if it helped me enjoy the episode more. Spoiler alert, it did not, but we can talk about that.
I liked it better than the last episode.
What's funny is I want to rag on this writer, but here's the thing. She writes well when she's not writing about Jed. She writes everybody else well. She just doesn't write the main character well. I would love to see her do a show on literally anyone else that's been featured on this show. Have her write that show. Just don't have her write She-Hulk, please.
Now, do you think that it's cool when you're watching her in She-Hulk form?
No,
like even when she's talking,
she's not two different people. This is Robert Pattinson Batman. This is Jennifer Walters all the time. Right. Just like Robert Pattinson Batman when he was Bruce Wayne was still the same dweeby, depressed dork.
You're right, dude. She is exactly the same person, which that's fine. Jennifer Walters wasn't supposed to turn into an actual monster, but I'd like to see her be like, you know what, this shit's over with, and then start. Oh, okay, kind of like she was behaving at the wedding when she became She-Hulk, like if she's going to have two different sides to where she's real soft spoken and everything. But even in this one as She-Hulk, she was just, I don't know. Look, I liked the group therapy thing. I liked the characters. I had fun with it. I thought Tim Roth was really funny. All the stuff really worked. But is that what I want to see in this Marvel show that's approaching the end of it, mind you? And again, according to this awesome montage we get before every movie and every show of all these great moments and that are usually filled up in these movies and shows, this show literally has none of that. Even when the stuff happens, it's for a few seconds, maybe a minute. And in this one, nothing happened. And it was just for a few seconds at the end. It might as well have been a post-credit scene when we see him picking up her phone.
So I just watched, I just watched, I'm watching, in the process of watching, my brother had Mr. Beast on. You know who Mr. Beast is, right?
I do.
Right. Biggest YouTuber in the world. And something he does very well, he preaches very often, is knowing your audience, right? Now, there's a million other keys to this guy's success, but that's a big one, is knowing your audience. So, yeah, you want to write a show about women, single women in their 30s and the crap they have to deal with, and that's understandable, right? I'll never understand what they have to go with. You could have me try to learn every day, and I'm never going to understand the life of a woman who's single in her 30s. But to put that on a Disney Plus show, that's a Marvel show that caters to dorks who probably never seen a woman in real life, much less date a woman or try to understand a woman, it's not going to work.
Kind of like what we see in this picture right here.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even remember that guy's name. I was going to write it down. I was like, he's just the Matador to me.
It's like El Agrio.
Yeah, I don't even know who the comic character is. That's how deep cut that is. Like, I don't even know who that guy is.
Manbull and El Agria.
Manbull, I kind of know, right? El Agria or the Matador. I don't even know. I didn't even bother to look up comic book resources to see who he's based off of because, who cares?
Okay, how about this one?
The porcupine, yeah, again. Might as well have Squirrel Girl in here. At least we'd all know Squirrel Girl. Have her beat up somebody off screen and it'd be good.
Look, I was laughing at at what I was watching though. Like this whole group scene thing, I was laughing at it. Like all the stuff going on with the vampire dude and like Tim Roth,
who does some foreshadowing, right? Maybe he was after your blood.
Exactly. I was going to mention that. Oh, you know what? Let me go grab something real fast. I'm sorry, I forgot my book of notes.
Yeah. Bobo does the old school book of notes. People, I do notepad because
you got to keep it going for me.
That's right. That's right.
My notes, I got to have the notes.
Bobo like the old man. He boomer. Call him a boomer in the comment section for not using notepad.
Where's my pad and pen? Oh man, I can't believe I left it up on that. My bad. Sorry, I left it up on that damn picture. No, but yeah, the first thing that I have in my notes is Josh is bad.
Yeah. Also, once again, stop me if you heard this one before. Stop trying to get me to care about Jen. I don't care that she's on this date with this guy and she's having a great time. Like, I literally could care less.
So look, I will say this. They did a really good job at making you feel that anxiety of like the first time you hook up with a girl or a guy and, it's all that nervousness of everything happening. And finally, when it does happen, and then you want that text to come back and all that stuff. I thought they did a really good job of conveying all that emotion. Like I was like, damn, that sucks. However, that's not, I wonder why. I just saw the intro for Marvel and immediately this is what we're watching.
And not only that, Bobo, but here's my notes on that. Let's see if I can find them real quick. We get the girl guy text cliche. I've seen that scenario 3 billion times. I don't know. How many times have we seen that play out in a movie or a TV show or whatever,
3 billion times.
Yeah. Can you be any less original than with the whole, let's talk about this, why this guy hasn't texted you, and let's bring it up in a group and let's everybody weigh in on it.
Look, I don't want to sit here and where I've been standing on me. Like I want to make movies for a living. So I'm not trying to bash on people that are spending their time doing this and they're in the, in the writer's room and all that. I'm not trying to bash on your hard work, but what I'm saying is it's not, you just said it with Mr. Beast. Know your audience. This isn't connecting to me for you, somebody who was a She-Hulk reader, somebody who would literally go and pick up the books. And then now it's like you're not connecting with that person that reads that character.
Yeah, it's like watching a Kevin Smith movie. And here's what I'll say, okay? Here's what I'll say.
Zing.
Yeah. I got a couple more that are probably coming. But let's put it this way. I could understand, so let's take a show, for example, Supergirl, right? Terrible show on the CW. But I understood who their target audience was. It was young women, and that's who they gear the show towards. And the CW is a channel
Gears
that
it towards that.
right, and so they
And
have that audience. So I get it. Marvel, you're not getting single women who are in their 30s to watch a Marvel show. They probably don't care about comic books. There's probably some out there. So if you're out there, I apologize. I'm not trying to say you don't exist, but I'm
hey,
probably
but
trying to
look,
tell you what you probably already know. You're a very, very small part of the population. That's not the genesis for a good TV show that's going to draw numbers.
but first off, let me interject here, because a well-told good story is a well-told good story. For example, my mom, who doesn't really get into all these things a whole lot, really got into WandaVision
Yeah.
because it was told well, and it was this innovative way of doing something that before you know it, you can't help but be tied to your chair and the screen. And you're just like, damn, what, this is starting to get really cool here and original. And then it gets dark. And again, we've talked about the last episode being could be better, but what I'm saying is the story was told well.
Well, look at the demographic that story is geared towards. There's a much larger portion of us who are in our 30s and 40s who grew up without cable TV that watched a lot of these syndicated shows. And so the nostalgia factor we get from watching WandaVision is
Sure.
it's a big drawing point. It's like a huge magnet drawing us to that show, right? The same with your mom. Your mom probably grew up on that shit, you know?
Right.
So
So she can appreciate a lot of
yeah.
the things.
Now, like some kids who, like, once again, going back to Mr. Beast's example, that only know YouTube, are watching YouTube. They're watching WandaVision and they don't get it, but that's fine. That's fine. There's a big portion of people that do get it, and that show is going to appeal to that large portion. This show appeals to a very, very small portion of people. And rather than using devices or story plots to try to draw in more people to get your message out to a larger audience, you're just focusing on that small audience,
Right.
you know? And,
Yeah, I agree.
you
And
know,
look, give me, and one of the things that they're smart with, if you're trying to get a guy and a girl to be invested in the same thing, even if it's okay, for example, certain type of masculine movies or horror type movies, whatever, have something that the girls can relate to or connect with somehow.
Mhm.
And then you usually have something in a girl movie or something that a guy can laugh at this girl or something like that. You know what I mean? And
yeah, like some great rom coms out there, right? How to what is the one with
How to
Kate
Lose a
Blanchett?
Guy in 10
10
Days.
days, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Awesome, love that.
there's ways to do
Yeah.
it to make you be like, all right, this is generic and this is kind of but this is making me like this movie because they're kind of dead on with it, and in a way they're parodying it while trying to adore it and respect it.
Mhm.
And for one of the things I want way more of, and I'll be honest, is Titania. But she's never there and nothing's happening with her. But like when she's like, this isn't over, hater. Like to me, that's a funny commentary on the way of girls that I know. And I've never seen a girl that's like that actually has superpowers. But then she gets punched once and just walks away and cries about it. It's like, what's going on here?
Yeah, what did I tell you, Bobo? I told you halfway through episode 8, we're going to finally get our big bad. And we're going to realize that we could have done this whole thing in 2.5 episodes.
You're right, dude. I mean, and good. Look, I don't know if Disney ever said this, but there was a lot of stuff that was looking like Disney put these promos out there with saying episode 7 was the Daredevil cameo, which there wasn't. So look, is he really even going to be in this?
They've showed the footage, so they're
But
completely
again, they show footage in trailers sometimes that's not in shows.
Yeah, but that would be stupid to do that with Daredevil. It's going to be the beginning of episode 8. This is going to piss me off even more because now we're going to have the Daredevil cameo in episode 8. That's going to take up 3/4 of the episode.
What if the Daredevil cameo is a post-credit scene after it's all over with?
Well, Matt Murdock's going to show up. Listen, we're going to have a court scene in episode 8. We can get a little bit of Daredevil, not much, right? Just a little bit of Daredevil to promo his show because that's the only reason they did the show. I'm beginning to feel is just to promo other shit, right? And then finally, at the end of the tail end episode, we're finally going to get into the crux of whatever the stakes are of She-Hulk. Samuel Stearns is trying to steal her blood. Who cares? Who cares at this point? Nobody cares, right? Nobody cares about anything to do with this show. You've done a horrible job writing your main character. Congrats.
I definitely don't. I like. Look, it's not like it's a crap show in the sense that
Let's
they
play a
didn't.
game. Let's play a game. Okay, I want you to name 10 things about the show that you like that don't have anything to do with cameos. All right? On your set, get on
Well,
your
with
mark,
10
get ready,
things,
get
that's
set,
I mean,
go.
that's hard to just start naming off 10 things of anything just straight off. But right, I do think it's funny. I do think that it's well shot. I think that the score is good. I think the acting's good.
Okay.
I like some of the lighter tone vibes of it with this female side of it. I can appreciate that, but I'm not caring where it's going.
Yeah.
It seems to be every episode seems to be just this sort of, oh, look, another in the day in the life of. It's like
Yeah.
you're supposed to get the day in the life of in the first 2, 3 episodes, and then something goes down, and then we're invested until the end because we can't put it down because we want to know how it ends. Right now, I don't have anything to care about how anything ends right now.
You know what?
Abomination seems cool. So it's like, all right, well, I mean, he's in a good place. And so nothing, there just doesn't seem to be any stakes throughout the show. Where WandaVision, there was always stakes, even from the second one, when you're hearing weird things in the radio and the black and white episodes, you start to realize that there's stakes here. Something's not right. And in this one, it's just so bubbly the whole time. And I don't mean the people being bubbly. I'm talking about nothing is happening.
This once again feels like a case of a writer that's writing themselves as the main character and doesn't realize that they're not that interesting. Right? And it's no shot against women who are single in their 30s. I'm a single Indian guy in his 40s. Don't write a show about me. Nobody's going to care. You know? Right? I would never do that to my audience if I was a writer.
Bring him back in.
Yeah, he should have been in episodes ago, man. You should have started setting him up. That's also bad writing is they've done such a poor job of threading the main plot into these filler shows. Every show out there has filler episodes. Every show out there is 70, 80, 90% filler.
This is like
just enough to thread that main plot in there to keep you invested, to make it feel like, oh, they're doing something cool. They're giving me standalone episodes, but they're still building this mystery in the background, right? The reality is they could have just done 4 episodes of the actual show and you would have probably liked it better. But you feel, when you're enjoying every episode, you feel like it's leading to something cool.
Yeah, I mean, and again, there's also shows that are built around, let's do this because we will be able to do so many different random episodes. And like Smallville, Supernatural were prime examples of those, because they were like, we created this and within the architecture of this whole model we built for these shows, it's because we can just create random story after another with some ongoing elevating plot lines, like with Lana and Clark, and then all of a sudden Lois comes in season 4, things like that. But those are just main plot points within the story arc of that existing character in the comic books that they're just hitting, just to make you be like, oh yeah, it's a little fan service. But in reality, all they were was episodic. Supernatural, it was just pulling on what other scary story can we tell? What lore can we pull from this episode? And I like that, but that's how the show was created.
I mean, the first season of Supernatural was definitely like that. Now, they got their main plot that built to season 5, which was probably the best season, right? And then after that, they had to kind of throw stuff against the wall. But that happened in season 2.
It got bad for a minute. Yeah. It got bad for a couple seasons, but then it picked back up towards the end, I think.
Yeah, Supernatural never had 2 bad back-to-back seasons. They would have a bad season here or there, but they would follow up with a good season. But season 5, when they figured out where they want to go in season 2, and they built it up to season 5, that was epic. That was some great TV,
Yeah. And again, when you're telling stories like that, it's kind of hard to keep that going. Like Breaking Bad's a prime example. It's like they ended it because they were like, we don't need to try to re-elevate this. It reached its peak, and let's just call it quits. Same thing with Better Call Saul.
You know how I know this episode was written poorly? Is they can't even suspend my disbelief enough to build the crux of the main episode. So the main episode, let's talk about what happens. Jen is Emil Blonsky's lawyer. She gets a phone call saying that Emil Blonsky's inhibitor went off, and she needs to go check it out with a parole officer who's nervous because this is the Abomination. So he asks Jen to accompany her because she's a She-Hulk. While she's there, Emil Blonsky is running a retreat where he helps people out. Some of them are super powered, right? A fight breaks out. Jen's car gets damaged, and she gets stranded there. Okay.
Yeah,
and this is what I'm talking about, bad writing, right?
And these 2 guys are the ones that damage her car.
Right. Bad writing. Because you have to give me the reason to be able to suspend disbelief. Let me tell you what could have happened in this episode. Jen could have called an Uber, and we don't have an episode. Jen could have hulked out and jumped back home, and we don't have an episode.
Yeah, but don't
Jen
you
could have
need
called a
don't you
cab.
need Wi-Fi to have an Uber or service or some sort?
Yeah, I mean, like, how long is it going to take the tow truck driver to get there? Is it really going to take that long? I mean, there's so many ways. Once again, she could have hulked out and just jumped home, and she would have been home.
You're right about
She
that.
could have picked up her car and hulked out and jumped
You're
to an
right.
auto shop.
You're right about that.
Right?
That is actually the most valid point you've made about this. Not that you weren't valid about other things, but I'm saying that's the one that's just like, oh yeah, guys, you know that she could have just hulked out, grabbed her car, and pieced out.
Yeah, it's like you can't even suspend. You can't even give me a good reason to why
That's
to stick
funny,
around.
dude.
You know.
That's funny. I can't believe I didn't think of that.
And it's like they really spread themselves thin with this episode, and they're like, okay, we have an idea. We want Jen to be in group therapy. We want Emil Blonsky to be in it. We want some other outrageous characters to get into it.
And look, they caught some gold comedic on camera. You know, it's not easy to make a comedy.
Sure.
And they caught some good, funny stuff. But again, this is a She-Hulk show, not like She-Hulk at the Improv.
You know why it's hard to find comedy is when that's all you're aiming for when you've got a superhero. This is what we both had this problem with Thor, not Ragnarok, but Love and Thunder. Right? It's like, all right, you overdid the comedy. You've got a guy, you've got a great actor playing a role where you can have him play different parts. You can have him be comedic relief, but also do a little bit of action, be serious.
But they play too hard on the comedy, man.
Right. You can layer in the writing. So when the comedic moments come, they hit. And you're right. She-Hulk did have some moments that should have been funny, but I'm so used to them just leaning on the funny that at this point it's lost its luster with me. I'm not laughing when I should be laughing because I know that's all they're going for, and it's becoming telegraphed.
And to me, I remember like at the very end when like the camera, there's like they're doing like a drone pull away shot of the retreat she was just at. Everything just happened, and you're like, I literally was thinking like, are you kidding me? This is about to be over, and then it says 3 days earlier, and it's like, okay, you're showing me something that is like literally felt like a post-credit scene, and that was the only actually eventful part of the show.
Yeah, the opening montage and the post-credit scene were all the real substance of the show. Everything else was filler.
Now, I do love that song that was playing because I love girl pop for one thing, but if it's good girl pop, and I like 80s type sounding stuff. So that song I was digging.
What song was it again? It's a song that I know.
I didn't know the song, and I said and told myself I was going to Google it so I can put it on my Spotify. But
it's a song that I've heard before. I just didn't think to write it down because I think it's one that I've heard quite frequently. But yeah, that's so the like if
Tim Roth is so underused though, man. I mean, when Kevin Feige was like, and that, yep, that's right, Tim Roth is back as the Abomination. We're all like, yay! And dude, it's almost over, and he's been in 2-3 episodes, but very little of one and a little bit of the other. And then this one, he's in the whole thing. But it's just now, while he was great, I love him, but underused as an actor. And underused as the character. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's Tim Roth. He's a badass. Use him more in this show. And then, second of all, you were touting that Bruce Banner and Abomination were, they're going to be a part of the show. And then it's like they're barely in it.
You know what it almost seems like? It seems like somebody pitched Kevin Feige shows. Like, we need to do a show with She-Hulk and gear it towards single women in their 30s. And he was about to say, that sounds like a horrible idea. And he looked around and he realized his wife was right next to him. And he was like, sure. Yeah. No. Let's do that. That's great. Let's go. Let's go. Because there's no way that they pitched him this show as it is, and he was like, "That's gold. That's gold."
No, dude. I'm telling you,
feature Marvel show.
I'm telling you, my theory again is that he's just not able to take the time on these projects like he used to where he could oversee it with the director. Now he's got so much going on that it's like, again, like I said that one time about Quesada. It's just flying across his desk, and he's approving it.
There is a rumor about that, right? Now I'm checking my Instagram to see if I can give proper credit to see who started this rumor. Now it's one of those aggregator sites, and you never know,
sure,
if these places are pulling shit out of their ass. But and I'll see if I can find it later. The rumor is that Mahershala Ali, who is supposed to be starting as Blade, is really frustrated with the process because there's only a 90-page script, which is not unusual, by the way, from what I understand. Scripts sometimes are that short. And there's
Especially for a
really
character like Blade that's not a dialogue-driven character. He's a quiet character.
right, but that there's not really a lot of movement being made, and that's because Kevin Feige is being spread too thin. That's how the rumor read. So once again, if I can find out where I got the rumor, I'll let you I'll text it to you so maybe we can put it in the post credits of the you're unplugged.
I'm unplugged.
Okay, I got you now. You went your mic went muted there for a moment.
Okay.
So what were you saying?
I can't imagine that Kevin Feige. So like I've directed a short film now. You know what I mean? Now I edited it. I did the score for it, and I did.
Don't be afraid to say that name, Bobo. Get that plug in
for Lake Court. Oh yeah, no,
yeah,
for Lake Court,
which is available for you to watch at.
Unfortunately, nowhere yet because
will be available for you to watch on
my channel at some point and on Vimeo. But we're entering it into festivals, so we can't put it out publicly yet because festivals won't accept that after that. But what I was saying is that I know what it takes just on that small of a project that we did. I know what it takes to be fully invested and make sure it goes right. Can't imagine. Now, again, producer and director, that's two different things. Director is way more hands-on than the producer. But even as a producer, overseeing things, making sure, because there's different types of producers. There's executive producers who are just, here's my money. Make sure you do something along these lines like we talked about. Then you have the actual producers who produce the movie. They make things happen. They make the negotiations. They make deals, all this stuff. And they oversee the product that's happening and make sure it's going in the right direction. I can't imagine overseeing 10 to 12, 14 projects at a time because he's not just overseeing what's coming out this year. He's overseeing the stuff that's coming up. He's maintaining the stuff that's past stuff that we still have to make sure we're following this narrative. And that's another thing. This is the first time on a mass level of multiple shows and movies that are supposed to be in this same world where things affect each other, like comic books. And that's never been done in cinema before. So I can't imagine him being able to pay attention or any good attention to all those projects.
Yeah, and listen, it's hard because you got to have people you rely on, but there's a delicate balance. Kevin Feige strikes that right balance, right? You can't be too much of a. And I know,
and I love Feige, by the way, because he brought us the original thing of the MCU.
Sure. But you can't be too much of a hardcore fan. I know our audience doesn't want to hear that. I know our audience is probably made up mostly of these nerds. Like, it needs to be exactly like the comic books. No, it don't. It don't need to be exactly like comic books. If you want to make money, if you want to lose money, you can make it exactly like comic books. But if you want to make money, no, it can't. It also can't be.
You have to turn it into something of its own thing.
Right. You can't be like the studio heads at Warner Brothers, who are people that got the jobs through connections, that went to Ivy League schools, that opened up the Rolodex to get a job at a studio, and they have no business being in a studio. You gotta have a mix of studio knowledge plus passion for the source material plus just the know-how of the industry in order to pull it off. And that's why nobody had been able to pull it off till Kevin Feige did, because that's a really hard mix to come across. So now we get in the problem of we got all these projects coming out. Marvel's become this huge entity with all these moving parts, and we still only have one dude that's capable of pulling it off, and he's having to oversee the whole entire thing. And it's just not working.
There's no other way to say it, man, but I just don't feel like it is working. And I just don't think that – I do think that there's something for anticipation. There's something to be said for being teased, to be – I mean, look, I hate to compare it this way, but think about any relationship you've been in. When the girl starts giving it up a lot and you start getting it anytime you want, you sort of get used to it, and they're kind of like, I don't want it as much anymore, or it doesn't mean as much to you anymore. So, but if it's something that you have to work for every time, that's more of like a treasure, you sort of value it more. And the same thing with these movies, with Batman and Star Wars. Just leave those characters and those properties alone for a little while. Stop shoving it down our throats to where we're just like, I don't need to see it. None of it means anything anymore.
Yeah, man, you got to get that foreplay in. Sometimes a little tongue action is what you need in order to make sure that, the rest of it is delivered.
Which is why, I'm excited about Avatar 2, because, he's not making something just to make it and put it out because the studios are like, we need to make some money now. He's like, I'll do it when it's ready. And I look, some people hate James Cameron. Some people think he's overrated. What say what you will about him. I really do think that for the most part, all of his movies have been groundbreaking in some way or another, whether it be technologically or whether it be financially groundbreaking, or just doing something for cinema that made other people want to do that type of movie.
The only people that hate Avatar are the people that wouldn't listen and watch it in the theater. My brother's a prime example. He just didn't want to watch it in the theater, and then he watched it on TV. He's like, "What's the big deal?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's not a big deal now because you missed the whole point, which was the experience of seeing something that cool
right
on the theater screen, right?" It's like giving me a She-Hulk show without She-Hulk and just making it about Jennifer Walters. Of course, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, and it's so funny how you back to that. That is true.
This is what makes me a pro, ladies and gentlemen. I know how to work
Who's
it back
the
to point
over here.
That's right. Who is the master?
Yeah, it's not. This is not like I'm not gonna. First off, I'm very much a glass half full type of guy. So, and I'm a guy who can like things for what they are. So this show, I'm not going to give a D or an F or anything like that because it's not that, but it is very average.
Yeah.
It's, you know what I'm saying? It's very, very in the C territory. It just, there's nothing to me to be like, oh, dude, go home. I can say that about The Boys. I can be like, you haven't watched Boys yet? I was like, dude, you trust me. Just go home and start watching it. I can say that about Stranger Things. I can say that about so many other shows that have come out. And this one is just like, if you get around to it, maybe watch it, but I honestly ain't nothing special about it.
Yeah, I want to sit here and tell you the show is trash, just so I can say it because I love saying that. It's part of my signature phrasing. But here's the thing. If someone would ask me, hey, do you enjoy watching She-Hulk? I'd be like, just fast forward through all the parts that She-Hulk's in it. Everything else is great. Like, the cameos are great. You know, the side characters are great. I watch a show about these side characters. They've been really well. The main character's boring. And it's nothing wrong with Tatiana Maslany. She's not the one writing the episodes. She's doing a great job with the material she's given. She just hasn't been given good material because nobody cares about Jennifer Walters.
Well, and again, the show, I mean,
listen,
as She-Hulk, she's sitting in the group talking about her Jennifer Walters date.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, ladies, I understand it's tough to be a lady, especially if you're single in your 30s. But here's one thing that would make it a lot easier. If you were a freaking She-Hulk, okay?
Yeah.
Right? That would make your life a lot easier. So even you got to be watching the show being like, why are you complaining? Just shut up and Hulk out, and all your problems are solved. You ain't got like, we got it, right? You can literally smash your way through any problem.
And look, it's trying to do that whole thing of, you know, but people only like me for something that happened to me, not for who I am. But the thing is that that's actually not what I am. I get that battle, and that's no. But look, I get that battle, and that's a tragic thing for somebody if that's happening to you. But this is a Marvel show, dude. This is about She-Hulk. This is comic book characters. And you're showing us something that, again, that is nothing like what you're even giving us this intro that you've put on there. And, you know, at least Thor: Love and Thunder, while I didn't like the tone, at least there was still action in it. You know, at least there was still comic booky looking stuff going on. This is nothing's going on.
Yeah. And also, everybody has that problem. I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, but we all have that problem. Nobody likes us for who we are. They only like us for who we pretend to be. Okay? That's the truth of life. I wish I could be like your parents and lie to you and tell you, no, it's only about what's inside. No, it's not about what's inside. It's about what can you do for people and who can you pretend to be. That's what people want. People want to hang out with people. That's what the world's like.
But it is important to be yourself. But the truth of it is, and the reality of it is the real world is like that. They want you to be something.
Don't lie to these people, Bobo. It's important for you to be happy with who you are. But you gotta live with the fact that people only want to hang out with who you pretend to be.
No,
that's just the truth of life. That's the truth of life.
This is all pretend. This is all pretend.
Listen, man. I mean, you are a fun guy. You and I enjoy hanging out with each other because we have a lot of the same interests, right? But hey, listen, our interests don't speak for everybody else. We got to go out. We got to meet people in public. Like, let's say we both got to talk to a big group of people and get them interested in us. Then we're gonna have to do a lot of pretending.
Yeah, well, you got to play the game, but it's not necessarily pretending. It's manipulating and getting it, not manipulating, but getting in there in the way that you understand.
I like the way you said that. Manipulating. I think that's, once again, listen. Kids, we're the parents that can tell you the truth. There is no Santa Claus, okay?
Look, Hard Knock Life is just something you learn your way. And everybody has their methods and their tactics that you develop along the way of learning life. I've gotten better about it. And now, but also I'm done. When I was in my, and now we're not even talking about She-Hulk anymore. But now when I was in my goose days, especially when I was trying to move up and I was married and all that, I was, I stood my ground on a lot of things, but I was also like trying to kind of kiss the corporate man's ass a little bit, trying to move up the ladder, all that. I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I am definitely chasing my thing now. So I don't really care what people think if they don't like who I am, but I do care what people think if I care about them. You know what I mean?
Listen, Bobo, if you could turn the Incredible Hulk and you were complaining to me about having to kiss people's ass, I'd be like, yeah, that's nice, man. I got to deal with the same thing. That's why I quit this and doing YouTube. I don't want to hear it from you. You know why? Because you can turn the Incredible fucking Hulk.
Yeah.
You know?
If I could turn into the Hulk, no, life would be awesome. Yeah. I could go do whatever I wanted.
So that's the point. Like, you're trying to get us to feel bad for this character who doesn't really need to be felt bad for because she's got super freaking powers.
But she's a human being, though.
Yeah, she's a human being with super freaking powers.
But no, but she's hurting inside.
Stop complaining. Like
she's in pain. She's crying all the time.
You just seem like a crybaby. Like it's like getting me to care about Elon Musk's day. I don't give a damn how bad Elon Musk has it. You're a billionaire.
But here's the thing: does she even really have it that bad? Because she's got a couple of good friends that really love her, and they're all about her.
Lawyer, she's got some good friends.
That's what I'm saying. Like Bruce
loves her. The glass half empty. Jen, all right? You got a pretty full glass. You're just ignoring all the fullness of it. And we've been having to sit here for 7 episodes, put up with your crap about how sorry you feel for yourself because nobody likes me for who I am. Well, just be She-Hulk all the time, then they'll love you. Who cares? You get that option. Not everybody has that option, right? Listen, when I'm dealing with racist kids when I was going to school, I can just turn to the white Hulk and be white and not have to deal with them, right? I just have to deal with that stuff as is and learn to love myself. So, you have an out. So I just hate your guts because you refuse to use that out. That's what I do.
You know? I didn't know this is going to turn into a therapy session, dude. That's
awesome. What this whole episode was about. It was about therapy.
That's what I'm saying. This is perfect.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the problem: is like all those people, like the black guy that thinks he's a vampire. Guess what? He's not really a vampire. It sucks for him. You got to deal with some harsh realities, right? The porcupine guy got to wear that outfit in order to get accepted. That's a harsh reality. That's an uncomfortable outfit. It gives him bad acne. It's a horrible, horrible thing, right?
Oh, and he smells like shit when he takes it off.
The Matador guy, dealing with racial stereotypes is a tough thing. The guy, Man Bull, look at him. He looks like a bull. You know how life is going to be if you look like how hard life is going to be if you look like a bull. He got horns.
He seemed to be the most optimistic one out of the group, too.
He got horns. That shit's probably hard as hell to get your ass in a car when you got horns.
Oh, man.
Can't even drive an automobile. Look how tough that man has it.
How many horns
he got hair.
Wall,
he got hair on his arms. His arms hairier than an Indian woman.
And his knees and shins only, not the whole wraparound of them.
Yeah,
just
he probably got hooves. You know, it's probably hard to buy shoes when you got hooves. You can't even buy the newest Jordans because they don't come in hoof size.
Dude,
he got real tough. You're a She-Hulk. You got super strength. Guys think you're hot when you're She-Hulk. You're a lawyer. You're still a successful lawyer. You got a law firm paying you hundreds of thousands of dollars just to be She-Hulk. You got advertising opportunities because you're She-Hulk. Like, I'm really supposed to feel bad about you?
And your enemy, supposedly what you thought was going to be your enemy and your cousin's enemy has actually turned out to be a good guy so far. Yeah. Now with this shot right here, for 1 second, they sort of made you think bad for a moment, for like one moment. The music got a little ominous, and then she walks out of there and she's like, yeah. But do you think there's anything up with these guys at all? Or do you just think do you think anything's up with Blonsky?
No, because they got to pay him for a cameo. So I'm going to say no, nothing's up with Blonsky. I think, plus it would, honestly, from a writing perspective, like I said, I've spent a lot of time shitting on this writer, but once again, I do want to make it clear that I thought she's done a great job writing everything but the main character. Like all the other stuff she shines in, she's probably a very talented writer. She just doesn't get this character, I'm afraid. She doesn't get the character like Kevin Smith doesn't understand writing. So
here we go.
So
you don't think that this is like Blonsky's literally going to amount to anything in this show? He's just there.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last cameo. Honestly, we could probably IMDb it to be.
So what about this? Is she going to have some more significance?
Yeah, and I'm not going to care because she's not going to be threat. She's not a threat. She's a Kardashian.
What if she brings somebody with her that's a threat?
That's she's the intelligent. We know the intelligentsia is going to be a threat, which we just got introduced to last episode. Episode 6, we got introduced to him, and we've seen about 5 minutes of screen time. And
they mention it in this one for 1 second. Yeah. Okay, how about is she going to be?
Dude, I would love it if she was in more episodes. Are you kidding me?
I love Madison with a Y.
I never thought
not
I
what
was
you
good.
think.
I never fell in love with the character. I thought I was going to hate more than Madison with was it a Y and you don't know where it is, or it's not
With
where
a
you
Y,
think.
and you don't not where you think. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, man. I would love more Madison and Wong. Make me a 9-episode series about those two, and you can make about wherever you want, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fire.
Dude, what if they
It's
did
gonna
a
have the
Madison
glow.
Wong? What they did like a one shot Madison and Wong.
It doesn't need to be a 1-shot. It needs to be a 9-shot.
Yeah, nine episodes.
Cancel She-Hulk season 2, and it's Madison with a Y, not where you think.
Okay, so will there be a season 2?
I hope not. What are you going to make it about? You've already.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because a lot of these shows are just actually just one season. I mean, Loki's going to be a season 2, and then Falcon Winter Soldier is what was the other one that's a season 2? There's one more that's
Falcon was Winter Soldier season 2. I think so.
Because I know that they did announce the Captain America movie.
Maybe I'm wrong.
So there's another show. Now there's so many shows, though, it's hard to keep track.
Miss Marvel?
Maybe it was Miss Marvel. It'll be a season 2. Maybe that's what it was, but I don't know, because then you have the Marvels coming out, which has Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, and it's getting crazy, dude. It's getting too wild.
Man, when Marvel was at its peak, if you had told us about all these shows dropping, we would have been so hyped.
Oh, I remember when they started announcing them when Marvel was still going right. When they first announced Disney Plus and they were going to be doing these shows, because like when WandaVision came out, Marvel was still booming.
Yeah, and WandaVision was good.
Yeah,
I mean, any kind of flat, but that's because of the pandemic, and that
but
so
it wasn't a bad episode. You can just tell that they weren't able to do what they wanted to do with it.
Loki was fire to me. Loki was great.
Yeah.
I know you're not as high on it. You liked it, but not as high on it.
I think it's great. It wasn't one that I find myself wanting to like rewatch. Like WandaVision, I watched twice. Falcon Winter Soldier, it's not that. I just felt like what that was we had seen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like when he's flying through the desert and everything, I was like, this is cool, but I've seen this in a bunch of Iron Man movies and in Avenger movies. Like, all right, so let's. And then I felt that they rushed the John Walker thing hardcore. That should have been like a movie about him becoming U.S. agent, or Captain America, then U.S. agent. All that stuff that are supposed to be significant was just rushed. And I think it was when I saw Falcon Winter Soldier that I start to feel like that maybe something's going wrong here. And then after that, I mean, I liked Hawkeye a little bit, but
I haven't watched it. I will say this about Captain America or Falcon and Winter Soldier. I didn't mind the social justice messaging in that at all. First of all, part of it is a little selfish because I'm a minority, right? And unlike a lot of Indians who now, the younger Indians are growing up in these suburbs where a lot of Indians flock to them, and so they're actually growing up with a lot of Indians. I went to school with about 6,000 kids. There was about 4 Indians, right? So I really felt like an outsider. So I relate to it a little bit. So
it didn't bother me like some people have talked about. They're saying it was too woke. I never felt that way about it. And in a time that we're in right there, art is a reflection of life. So
exactly. So we're coming off the George Floyd thing. And also, I always thought that was kind of the elephant in the room with Captain America. It's like, all right, Captain America coming in the 20s, white super soldier, but we can talk about all the uncomfortable parts of it's almost like watching a show that it depicts the 50s. Like, hey, what's that movie we just watched? Don't Worry, Darling, right?
Yeah.
Right? So like, yeah, the 50s were great, but we're also kind of mad racist, and we're just going to kind of skip over that part. And you always felt that with Captain America. Like, all right, yeah, he's a white guy from the 20s, a super soldier, but we can talk about some of the ugly parts of the 20s, some of the racism and the corporatism,
right?
And and so it felt like it was needed to address that elephant in the room. Like, hey, yeah, that stuff did exist, and it was around when Captain America was around. He just didn't know about it, but we're gonna open up the pantry and look at some of these things that we don't want to look at, right? And it's just that the final episode, after all that, you try to turn to a superhero show, and I thought that it was just like the tone shifted a little too quickly.
Well, it just again, and there was too much in the show on top of all that with John Walker, and then these other things. It was just like, and then the Countess. It just like, and then I didn't like the villain. I didn't like the villain at all.
The Flag Smasher.
Yeah, that whole cult thing.
I thought the actors did a great job, though.
Oh no, yeah. I'm just saying that, but the villain did not seem like, okay, these guys fought off Thanos. And then she's like, again, strength in numbers. I get that. There are only 2 guys, but I don't know. I have some issues also with the Shield. Again, what you were just talking about is not anything that I had a problem with on the show. It was much more of like, if Marvel can think of all these cool ways to make certain things like be a little bit more practical for their weapons or their costumes, they could have made some sort of believable thing that he wears, some sort of a brace that he wears that allows him to handle the shield. Because even then, he's having to put up padding, and it's stabbing halfway into trees, and then he's catching it. And he's not a dead man. So they needed to come up with something that he was wearing that allowed him to do that.
Well, I mean, honestly, the message we get is it's not even so much about him catching the shield. It's about the fact that he's not white. That's why they're not giving it him, making him the Captain America, right? They want it to be a white dude. So, and you know what? In retrospect, they'd probably try to do two messages when they could have gotten away with just doing one. Like, you're right.
No, I'm talking about he's not superhuman. He can't catch the shield. Like, this is things that like chop people in half, and he's just catching it with it. Just didn't.
Okay, I see what they should address that. Is what
they should have like given him something that he could wear to where it would allow him to catch this vibranium shield that again chops things in half. It shouldn't just chop his hand in half.
Well, I mean, I'm okay with suspending disbelief in issues like
that. Was just too much. That made me feel like, the audience is stupid. They're not gonna. It's like, well, no.
I think contrast that to this episode of the She-Hulk, where you have the very real, issue of her not being able to get home when we know she could easily solve that with her superpowers, because that's the whole crux of this episode. And so you're like, the whole crux of this episode doesn't stand on itself because it should have never happened. With a shield, it's a little bit more minor.
No, how about one of the major moments in Winter Soldier is when Captain America throws the shield at Bucky and he's running and he turns around and he catches it with his metal arm, and then he's like, whoa, nobody's sure. And all of a sudden Sam can do it. That's just that's bullshit.
I guess. That didn't bother me.
You're treating me like I'm an idiot now when you're doing that. It's like, and I feel like there's a lot of stuff.
But he didn't practice with it. Remember, he didn't get it right away. Like, he practiced over and over. No,
I'm saying the shield. He can't. His muscles should not be able to withstand what that shield is able to do with that power. He needs to have something that is a brace that allows him to catch it. Just like his hand can't stop a bullet.
You're 100% right on that. But at least you can suspend disbelief when you show footage of him practicing for hours and hours and hours.
I don't know. Me and a lot of my friends have talked about that. We don't buy that at all.
I get it. Let's
But anyways,
let's move on to this show, because like, what else do we need to talk about with this show?
Well, there's not any more to talk about, really. I don't think
went through the whole thing.
Well, I don't think that the show has anything that is even.
They just need to call it Snooze Hulk, because
connecting it to
25 minutes, I'm bored as hell every single time.
Connecting to what we were just talking about, though, with like disbelief, suspending all of that, like there's nothing that I'm having to really suspend in this movie, as far as like there's nothing that are having to make me buy.
Hey, here's a newsflash: She-Hulk is a single woman in her 30s. That's the whole point of the show. You could have given me 2 episodes of that. You give me 9 episodes. First of all, you're right. I'm not going to understand the hardships a woman in the 30s has to endure, and you're not going to be able to do it in 9 episodes, much less 9 million. I mean, that's just like, I can't relate. You ladies have it rough. Yeah, you're right. I totally understand that. You have it rough, but of course, I'm not going to be able to relate, and that's just unfortunate. An unfortunate truth. And so we got to spend 9 episodes talking about something that I can't relate to. Also, I'm pretty sure you're not getting a lot of viewers in that demographic. It's just me. I'm just thinking there are not a lot of single women who have to go through all this BS in their 30s that are single, that are also into She-Hulk and comic book shows.
Well, hey, but look, I also think there's a way that you can keep those elements in the show and make it a story that's moving and interesting, to where you're kind of waiting to turn the page. You want to see what happens. Yeah. Like in Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel is about a family and a culture that wasn't born in, and I don't know about, and it follows a teenage girl.
Sure, yeah.
But they made it to where I wanted to watch every episode. The next episode, I was like, oh, new Miss Marvel. Oh, sweet. I want to watch this. Whereas this, I'm kind of like, all right, let's see what this episode's going to be like.
Yeah, and to make it clear that we're not just bashing on, because I know there are a lot of channels that just bash on She-Hulk because it's a female-led property, and so immediately when we start talking bad about it, unfortunately, fans of the show are going to be on guard, and they're just going to see, just another couple sexist. I'll give the same criticism to Moon Knight. Nobody cares about Egyptian mythology.
Yeah, I was disappointed.
Now, if you make that a cool part of the background, then it's cool, right? Then it's like, oh, is this guy really tied to some sort of Egyptian god? and you can kind of throw in little subtleties that harken back to that mythology. That's cool because that's some stuff you can deep dive into. That's some Easter egg stuff, and as comic book fans, we love that sort of thing. But when you make that the whole crux of the show, it's well, I'm not interested in it. I'm sorry, a
Well,
lot of other people aren't.
and it was just like this show in the sense to where when I watched the first episode of Moon Knight, it was like, oh man, this looks like it's going to be good, and then it just started, you know.
Yeah, they should have gone with the original version of the Stephen Grant character, make him like Stephen Grant's basically like Bruce Wayne, and then we find out, wait, that's not his real personality.
Right.
Well, this guy might be completely nuts. He's got other personalities. What's going on? I thought the show was going to be a Batman ripoff, and you just blew my mind. It's not. It's something way deeper.
Right.
Maybe
like
this whole thing is fake, right?
At the end of the end of the first season or something, you know, which that is another thing. I think Moon Knight is returning. I think.
All right. Well, it's another show I'm not going to care about. So all you people that think I'm just bashing She-Hulk because she's a woman, Moon Knight, Oscar Isaac, great actor.
Well, and we've
favorite actor of mine. I am not going to watch season 2 of that show.
We've talked
unless you want to do a show about it, then I'll do it.
And we've talked about it before too. Like we're not bashing on women.
Yeah.
Because we don't. That's not a make or break thing about shows for us at all. I'm very pro. Like, Don't Worry, Darling. If you watch my review on that, I give it a lot of praise, a ton of praise. I give Olivia Wilde a ton of praise. I give Florence Pugh because they created something that was awesome and something that was compelling.
I'm wondering why critics are bashing that movie the way they are.
I don't understand it because I thought it was really good. I found myself truly enjoying myself the entire time.
I meant to do a review on it. I just got sick. But spoiler in case I do or maybe I don't. It's not quite got the glow for me. It's not an 8 or a 9 or even a 10, which is very rare. But it's around that high 6 to 7 range. I think it's a good movie. I think it could have been done a little bit better. I think it could have been, crafted a little bit better. But it's still good. It's still entertaining. I could even see it turning into a cult classic, to be quite honest. But yeah, that show, you're right. It's centered around women. It's centered around some very subtle messaging about being a woman. It takes shots at some of that red pill audience, Jordan Peterson type YouTubers, right? But it does it in a way that it's not bashing over the head with it and lets you draw your own conclusions, even though it very strongly leads you to a conclusion. You don't feel like it's forcing itself upon you. It leaves it up to you to make that choice and see how you feel. And that's what a good art should do, right? That's what art is supposed to make you realize how you feel, not tell you how to feel. Right.
And it's supposed to make you sort of it's supposed to slightly place a question in your head, and not like a question that you start asking yourself and you can write a question down. More of like it's a subjective thing that gets your mind sort of racing into different directions. That's sort of in a questioning state. Mm-hmm. And I think that, Smile definitely did that. And look, I'm just as cool with a good old-fashioned smutty popcorn horror that's just there to be there, like a Friday the 13th or something like that. Those movies are fun. What they're there for, they're not trying to get any sort of real underlying message out there. They're just a depiction of fan stuff. You know what I mean? But, I also like messaging. I like something that is trying to get some sort of an undertone there that's not just saying it. They're using something else in the story to, metaphors and stuff to project that. And
what's the fun in you just telling me how to feel? There's no fun in that. Having me figure out how you want me to feel, and then realizing later on if I'm right or wrong, and talking to other people about it and seeing how they took it. That's way more fun to talk about than you just coming out and straight up telling me, "Hey, being a woman in her 30s is hard." Okay, I get it. You're right. It is. What else is there to that statement? Literally nothing. Okay, awesome. And you're gonna give me 9 episodes of that? Wonderful. I can't wait to watch them. Sarcasm, right? It's not fun. But if you creatively wrote it in a way to make me understand that and make me start coming to the conclusion you want in my own way, that's a much more fun conversation.
Yeah, and you reel me in, and it becomes something that it's supposed to be, a story. And like you said, telling you how you want to feel. You need to, like I said, there's party movies where it's a party. And it's supposed to put on to just have fun with. It's not intended to make you think or tell you how you feel. It's more of a display. It's more of a demonstration. Check this out. But
Also, you know what though? At the end of the day, none of us want to watch She-Hulk for any of that crap. I mean, let's be real. The parts in the
no,
previews that
I wanted to see something happening leading up to a major event in the MCU. I
we want
wanted
her to
see
be a superhero, and we've seen bits and pieces of that. The Daredevil, the part where she's wearing her suit, which we've already had it teased. All that stuff was stuff we got excited about in the trailer, and it's literally going to be episode 8 or 9. We're going to get it, and none of the rest of the stuff we cared about.
Which brings me back to my point of the reason they are doing this half the time is just these shows, these Disney Plus shows, are just so they can reel in some money through Disney because the theme parks aren't doing what they used to. And that was part of their revenue. And now they're just like, we just got to keep people subscribed. We got to keep them subscribed.
Short-term corporate strategy, right? These are this corporate glut. I've worked for 2 Fortune 100 companies, and you see this type of shy decision making all the time, where it's short-term goal led by short-term decision making that doesn't have the bigger picture in mind. Because listen, you're probably going to draw in some subscribers with these shows, and then when they realize all these shows suck, they're going to unsubscribe because there's a lot of competition out there. There's Netflix, there's Hulu, there's all these other great streaming apps. And not a lot of people have dollars to spend on all of them. You got sports streaming apps that are coming out now. And so you give shitty product, and it's going to be really easy for people to look at that decision-making tree when they have to decide what streaming services to pay for and say, you know what, Disney Plus is trash. Next time Mandalorian comes out, I'll re-up my subscription for a little bit. But for the rest of it, it sucks. I'm not going to waste my time subscribing to it.
Dude, I hate to say this, but I think my biggest disappointment with Disney Plus, and then we'll start wrapping this show up here, but my biggest disappointment with Disney Plus so far has to be Obi-Wan.
I didn't even watch it because I heard so many bad things.
It's, again, not like, it's just like, okay, I mean,
what's the point?
I mean, and again, there are some cool things that go down, but there's a fan edit where somebody edited into a 2 hour and 15-minute movie. Like they chopped it all down because, it was 6 30-40-minute episodes. Or maybe even an hour. I don't know. But anyways, they chopped it down and made it more like, and they edited it in the style of the other Star Wars movies to where it actually feels, it works better. But man, like the fight between Vader and Obi-Wan, like there's just the very ending fight. You can just see the LED screens. Not like you can actually see the screen. I'm saying, but you can just tell that it just screams, look at us using this LED screen, and it feels more like them putting on an elaborate stage play than it felt like at the
It's like one of those Disney shows at the park where they do the lightsaber fights. Is that what it's like?
Well, Yoji, I mean, slightly. I mean, you'll see what I mean when you watch it, but like just the CG that was at the end of Revenge of the Sith when they're fighting on that lava and everything, it just looked badass. You can tell they just spent so much time on that. And they're just using this. We'll put the LED screen behind them. We'll create the floor that matches, and then we'll use some lighting effects. And it just feels, even though it's extravagant and you can see these backgrounds that go on for miles, it still feels like they're in like some sort of auditorium. It's weird.
You know what makes it tough for Obi-Wan? I'm going to tie this back into She-Hulk because I'm a pro. What makes it tough for Obi-Wan is we're talking about a story where we already know the ending. For the 2 main characters involved that we care about. We already know how they go out, right? We know what happens to them in the long term. We know what happens to the Empire and all of that. And the way to get past that is you got to have really, really, really good storytelling. If it's not top-notch storytelling, it's going to fail.
Oh, yeah.
Got the same problem with She-Hulk. Like I said, I hate to disparage this writer. She's done a fantastic job on the other characters. But she had an uphill battle because she's dealing with a character that not a lot of people know. You got hardcores like me that know her and love her, but the rest of the public that Marvel's making money and eating off of for 20 plus years. The general public doesn't know that much about comic books. It just knows for escapism. They know it. They remember it from their youth and what it was from their youth. And
it's
they want to share that with their
something
family,
now.
Right? That's what's made Marvel its money. In order to keep that fan base, when you bring in a character like She-Hulk, you need tight, good storytelling. You need to know what's important is not letting people know how tough it is for me as a girl in the 30s. It's about writing a superhero show that appeals to the masses, and you got to write it really well because you're going to have 9 episodes to do it, and you're going to be spread pretty thin. So you got to have some tight storytelling, and you ain't done it.
All right. Well, hey, look, I got to keep this tight under the hour, man. So thank you for joining, brother. I love you.
Sorry to go off on that last.
And let's do it next time, next Thursday. Let's do this back again.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thank you for joining me, guys, and y'all have a good one. Much love.